what we really want to accomplish during this time is to share with you all from a high level perspective. So you're going to hear from our Associate Vice President of Development and External Relations, Mr. Kirk Bogard. So you'll hear his perspective, but we really also hope to be able to calm some worries that may be out there, share with you some resources that we know will be helpful and effective during this time, and then really also give you some perspective for moving forward. So that's the point of this. The last piece that I'll add is that we're going to have these series throughout the rest of this month. So we already have an alumni panel scheduled. And so every Friday at 1 p.m., you will hear or see one of these hot topics and you will be able to sign up for it. So thanks for joining. And I'm going to share my screen with you and then turn it over to my colleague, Kirk Bogard, and he's going to take it from here. Kirk, are you on?
I am. I'm ready. I was just waiting for you to switch your screen. While you're doing that, I'll say hello. It's nice to have you all join us today. I got to say that when Monique and I came up with this idea of a fireside chat, it was 32 degrees and blowing and looking like it was going to rain and snow. So my fireplace would have been nice at that time. I am pleased to share from Oxford today. It's almost 70 degrees. It's sunny. The flowers are out. And we wish you were all here on campus with us. Today, I just wanted to share with you a number of different areas. Really, this call came out of questions and inquiries and discussions we were having with all of you and other students about the current state of our economy as it relates to jobs and internships. What should you be doing with employers now? And we'll get into that. We'll get into that in a few minutes. I should add, I graduated from Miami a mere 30 some odd years ago and spent 20 plus years in the financial services area. And when I graduated from Miami, it was a very bad economic situation as well. We had just suffered the second largest stock market crash ever. This was back in 1987 and 1988. So I have some context for what you guys are going through right now and that anxiety about trying to find a position and launch your careers. I've had the privilege of being at Miami for 14 years now, and I spend the better part of my time talking with employers, engaging with our alumni, and helping to bring them to campus in order to help you launch your careers in meaningful ways. So with that, Monique, you can move it on to the next screen. We'll continue on with the thing. I have with me today the leadership of the Farmer School Careers team, and that includes Monique Frost, who was just speaking, who has a tremendous amount of depth and experience working with college students with regards to internships and full-time positions. And also with us is Jamie McCall, who's our Associate Director for FSB Careers, and really does a tremendous job of one-on-one coaching with regards to helping you personalize your career plans. If you have not had a chance to speak directly with Monique or Jamie, I would encourage you to do so. Their contact information is below. And at the end, we'll make sure that you all know how to get in touch with us to schedule appointments. Please. So today, what we really want to try to accomplish with you first is to talk about what's going on in the economy. What am I hearing? What are we hearing and seeing from our employers as we talk with them about what the future may hold? We also want to share with you some of the opportunities that we're aware of, things that we think you should be considering as we game plan this decision. Much is not known, but that does not mean that we can't be taking action. And that'll come in the last part with some best practices, some strategies to consider, as well as resources that we want to make sure that you are all. So first, current state of employment. I should also say a lot of this presentation was built upon the questions that you all submitted when you registered for the webinar. So thank you for that. They were the foundation from trying to provide you what you need as opposed to trying to guess. Um, so current state. As I was saying at the beginning, there's a lot that's not known, but we do know this. Currently, we are aware of about 20 internships and full-time jobs combined that have been canceled. 20 out of 2,000. If you think of a student class is 1,000 per class, so 20 students in farmer. Not all of those are farmer kids. From two companies thus far. One is was Luxottica. They're an Italian-based firm. So you can imagine if you're watching what was going on over in Italy, you can understand why they rescinded their offers. And the other was a fuel company. And if you're looking at the price of oil right now and consumption in the airline industry, if airlines aren't flying and cars aren't driving and trucks aren't moving, you don't need gas. And if you don't need gas, you don't need people. So those were really, I mean, that was 50% of that impact. For the most part, I will tell you, our companies are telling us it's a wait and see type situation. I was talking to a colleague of mine in a major firm just this morning, and we were remarking that this has been going on for 3 weeks, and it seems like that's a really long time, but 3 weeks is not a really long time. And this may well continue all the way through summer. So I think that understanding that this is something that we need to be prepared for the long run, and not get overly concerned about, oh my God, what's going to happen next. We have heard from all of our big four accounting firms, all of which have said that their intent is to honor their offers for the full-time positions, which is fantastic. We have heard from many of the Fortune 500 companies that are more of a wait and see, but nobody's backed away from it just yet. We have seen some firms, and I thought this was super clever. They restructured their internships to be virtual, and so while it might not be that same 10-week experience from mid-June to mid-August that we're used to seeing, giving students an opportunity to experience what we're doing professionally now, I think is great, and is only something that will continue as we move forward. I mean, so much of our economy these days does allow for components of work from home. So if you learn those skills early, and I can tell you the last 3 weeks has been a tremendous learning curve for us at Miami. I'm sure you saw your faculty go through a metamorphosis of learning how to do WebEx and video calls and voiceovers and all that fun stuff that they've been doing so adeptly to try to make sure that we're continuing to deliver to you the very best education that we can possibly do. My own team here at Farmer, whether it's in the development space or if it's Monique and the external relations team, we're now, I think I spend more time on video calls than I did when I was in my office in Farmer. But I think we've all risen to that challenge. It's been nice to hear the feedback from all of you, because at the end of the day, that's what we get up in the morning thinking about, and that's what we go home at night thinking about. That we are actively communicating with our employers, and they are continuing their pursuit in many cases of their interviews, their inquiries, and I would encourage you to make sure that is your first stop in your career plan as you're looking for different opportunities. So let's say you're a finance major and you're interested in an internship with a bank. Sort that through Handshake. Start looking at U.S. Bank, Fifth Third, PNC, etc. I think you'll see many of those opportunities. Secondly, I would share that as far as best practices go, this is the time to be hyper networking. And what I mean by that is hopefully you have been engaged to some extent in the career or internship search. And I would encourage you to be reaching out to those employers, encouraging you to reach out to the executives from whom are in your network. Look, we're all at home right now for the most part. We have time. It's not a lot, but I can tell you that our alumni base is phenomenal, and they want to help you, but you need to be proactive and take the initiative in reaching out to them. Keep in mind, they probably don't know who you are, but that's okay. LinkedIn is a tremendous, tremendous resource. And at the end of this presentation, there are some resources we list out that you'll receive. And it's kind of a how-to on how to do a LinkedIn search if you're not familiar with that. I would also say that this is a time from which to look beyond kind of the tried and true, who's in your family's network, who's in your professional network. Talk with your faculty. They have a tremendous amount of depth in their particular field, especially for the juniors and seniors that are with us today. And I would be engaging them in their office hours and talking about where you're at in your career search, what you're interested in, and what ideas they may have. I have been in touch with many of them. We're in the process of having a number of our alums come and speak in your classes, and you'll begin to see those dropping in the next 3 to 4 weeks as we wind through the semester. The top questions that we saw, I kind of themed them, if you will, and they were really hitting on a couple of different threads. The first one was, if I don't have a full-time job or an internship, what should I do? The second one was, I just had my internship rescinded. What should I do? And a third is, who's hiring, and how should I approach different alumni and that process? So let me take the last one first. Right now, through Handshake, you can get a good sense for what the opportunities are that are out there. I think that if it were me reaching out to future employers, I would be doing it with a tremendous amount of sensitivity to what's going on in our society today. Everybody's being touched by this in some shape or form, and if you haven't, I'm sad to say that, in my opinion, I think you will be. And that's not being dramatic. I think that's just being pragmatic. But reaching out to these employers, in very first, the sentence ought to be, hey, so-and-so, I hope you and your family are well. I am, my family and I are the same. We're working through this. And then get to the point of, I would be interested in having a conversation with you about my career search or my network, and what I'm looking to do. Would you have 15 to 20 minutes, XYZ? I can tell you I probably have had 7 to 10 student conversations over the last 3 weeks that started just like that. And I'll take that phone call all the time. So reach out. The initiative is the important part. They're not going to say, oh my God, I can't wait. Where have you been, Kirk? I want to hire you today. That's not going to happen. But what could happen well is you begin a conversation, and it's a thoughtful one. I think then you've got an opportunity to continue to pursue it. Before you get to reaching out, I would encourage you to really know your story. What is it that makes you different? What is it that you're seeking? I had a student a week ago wanted to get into banking, but he didn't really know why, and he wasn't kind of knowledgeable about what's going on in the marketplace. So we had a big conversation about the importance of reading the Wall Street Journal. I had a discussion about looking at some of the asset management firms like a Fidelity or a Merrill Lynch or to take your pick, Charles Schwab. They have great resources there to help you understand what's going on in the market. The next one I would tell you is that as you are take this time to look for holes in your own resume or your own story or your skill set. And what I mean by skill set is we have some extra time. Some of your classes are synchronous, some of them are asynchronous, so that by nature, give you a little bit extra time to do skills training. If you need to enhance some of your programming skills, take the time to take one of the online training courses about how to do some fundamental programming. Maybe it's analytical skills that you're trying to enhance. So find some of those types of online opportunities as well. These are the things that you can then share with your future employers or those with whom you are networking, and that's going to separate you from everybody else because that's extra stuff. It's hard to do. It takes planning, and those are the skills that employers are most interested in hiring for these days. One of the last questions that I saw that I wanted to talk about is, well, what do I do if I don't get an internship this summer? What if I have my full-time job rescinded and June 1st comes along, I've graduated from Miami, I don't have a job, what do I do? I think that, first and foremost, never stop networking. Even if you do get the job and it starts on June 1st, continue to network because that will only serve you better in the long run. But if you don't, a few other things I'd encourage you to consider. Volunteer. And there are an infinite number of ways from which you can help your communities these days. You could work for FEMA, you could work for the Red Cross, you could deliver Meals on Wheels. There are a lot of things that our society is going through right now, and we're all a part of it. And this just gives an opportunity to, again, demonstrate initiative. I guarantee you the first question, that's going to come up with an interview, in job interview, how are you? How's your family? How'd you get through COVID? Et cetera, et cetera. And they'd say, well, what did you do during that period of time? And being able to articulate, I did some volunteer work. I helped take care of a family member. I did these 5 things. That's part of your story. 1. 2, you're helping society. That's a positive. And 3, it may just make you a better person. And I don't say that in a Pollyanna way. I think that this is an opportunity, if we treat it as such, from which to elevate our contributions. And I think that future employers are looking for those individuals with whom they relate to. Some people will call it, can you go out and have a beer with them and get along and find them interesting and interested. Others would say, if you get on a plane and they're sitting next to you, would you have a conversation with them for an hour? That's what you're looking to try to build, is this rapport. And in order to build the rapport, you have to have personal things from which to share, and then be able to draw out the same from the interviewers that you're speaking to. The last thing before we switch to any open questions I'd be happy to take is I would really stress that the resources that the universities provides to you, first of all, would be Monique and Jamie and their willingness to do one-on-one appointments and conversations with you. The Center for Career Success, Student Success at Miami also has resources available, counselors available that you can be speaking with and building a plan. One of the technology sources that I would encourage you strongly, if you have not already done this ought to be one takeaway from this call, is to go on to Big Interview. You can access it through the CCES website, the Miami Careers website, and do some practice video interviewing. One of the consistent pieces of feedback that we get from employers is our students aren't as smooth at video interviewing as they should be. You've got great talent and depth, and once you get into a face-to-face conversation, you kill it. But so many companies these days are using the video interview as that first screen, that you need to have some skills in that regard. Big interview, excuse me, is it's free, it's confidential. You click a set of questions that are germane to your area, and you work through them, and then you play the feedback, and you're like, oh my God, I didn't know that I was that bad. But if you do it a few times, you get pretty good at it.
So there are still employers hiring They may not be quote unquote the sexiest jobs, but there are positions still out there. And as Kirk mentioned, as far as the American Red FEMA and other ways to get involved in the community. And I'll know a little bit more about and informational interviewing. But something I spend a lot of time in is that there's also the hidden job market. So even though you may not see positions out there, when you are using the alumni tool from LinkedIn, when you are using Miami Alumni Connect, when you are using the alumni chapter, you can connect with those alumni and ask for those informational interviews. Things like, how did you get started with your hiring process? What are some day-to-day job duties, responsibilities that you have? What are some challenges that you face? What are some projects that you work on? Are there job shadowing opportunities even available? And my favorite question to end on every informational interview is there anyone else that you would recommend that I speak to as I continue my internship or job search? You never know what person that they might refer you to or what network they might have kind of at their disposal to share with you. I share my very first position. I passed my resume along to my roommate who was the nanny of the VP of Human Resources at Fifth Third. The job wasn't even posted. So it's just simple conversations like that and using your own internal network that you can be creative and really use this time to really branch out to others.
Perfect, Jamie. That's a great question. I often end my conversations the same way. Somebody sent in a great chat. So I know if you want to send your questions directly to me, I can see them. And a point was raised by Dave Lurk, who's our director for corporate relations for the Farmer School. Another
Kirk,
thing
can
that you
you
can
hear me?
I can. Hello.
Okay, so I have no idea what's going on with my computer, but I'm calling in and you're doing great. So that's why I didn't interrupt you. But I did want to just add to Jamie's point. Thank you so much, Jamie, for everything that you added. I do want to add that, yes, you all will get these slides, but I also wanted to let you know that there are several virtual career fairs that are also happening. So Miami will have one May 6th, and you can register. Well, actually, you don't need to register, but it's going to show up in Handshake. So Kirk was talking about things that are taking place on Handshake. That will be one of them. So we are talking with our employers who have those maybe short-term or remote or even gigs, as they call it now, available for students and even seniors to partake in opportunities in companies that are gonna need your help to kind of get back off the ground. So May 6th, mark your calendars. That's going to be the Miami Career Fair. And then there's another career fair that's taking place through Careero. And so that's for mainly seniors who might be looking for opportunities as well. And that is a website. So you will also have that resource as well. And Kirk, I'll let you jump back in, but I just want to add, if you do have a current opportunity, an internship or a full-time position, and you haven't heard anything about that position being canceled, don't assume that it's canceled. Okay, if you're nervous about it not moving forward, talk with your supervisors at that company. Talk with your recruiters. See where those positions stand. Bring some ideas to them if you're nervous. But for sure, don't look for another opportunity if you still have one in place. Always be transparent, but just be sure to follow up if you're a little bit nervous about that. And we can have conversations with you all about how to do that. Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Kirk.
Perfect. Thanks, Monique. Great point. So virtual career fairs are pretty cool, and will provide you an opportunity perhaps to see some employers that don't necessarily come to Miami because of costs and time. But at the same time, they are strongly interested in hiring top talent. The last point I wanted to share with you with regards to skills training during this period of time is there are a number of certificates that you can pursue that will help differentiate yourself from others in the candidate pool as you're pursuing jobs. A couple of examples would be Adventus, which is really designed more for the banking industry and financial services. You could look at Argus, A-R-G-U-S. Argus is a software platform that is specific for real estate. And you can also pursue a number of certificates through Burke Market Research. Burke is spelled B-U-R-K-E. These are all pretty simple Google searches, and you'll be able to get some more information there. A great, tremendous, fundamental thing that maybe you've had it in your classes, and if you haven't, you should take the time to understand Google Analytics. And there's a number of exercises you can go through and get involved there. And then the granddaddy of them all from a CRM standpoint is Salesforce. And so many of our corporations these days have ties into the Salesforce CRM system that your familiarity there will give you a leg up, whether you start in a sales role or a market research role, or even at a bank. So with that, Monique's got the resources that are up there. A couple I'd pull, but I'd call your attention to. One is Candor, and there's another one that's probably on the next page that has from the Wall Street Journal, and these are dashboards that those companies are keeping track of the current state of hiring. So at Candor, you log on and you can see, all right, well, who from the retail industry is still hiring, and what's the current status of employment at I'll pick GE just yesterday announced the layoffs in Cincinnati of like 150,000 people. So that's a one point destination where you can go and get a sense of that particular company and what they're currently doing with regards to hiring or firing or laying off or furloughs. That's been made public, I put that way. I think that's how I would like to close and say this to you. We are all in this together. This is impacting everybody at Miami, whether you're a student, a faculty member, a staff member. Our alumni, I can tell you that I've had countless phone calls in the last 3 weeks. And to a person, they have offered to assist us to support you in whatever way they possibly can. So I would encourage you to demonstrate that Miami resolve and initiative. Sometimes it's referred to as grit, but now's the time that you need to get going, keep going, reach out for help, and know that we're here to help you. We just had another thing, so give me a second. The question is, do you see those interviewing in New York City and other populations that are harder hit? Is that going to be more difficult? I would say yes. I think those people, because they're wrestling with that a little bit more intensely than, say, Oxford, Ohio, knock on wood, Governor DeWine has really had us on lockdown for longer than some other areas, and other areas are experiencing more outbreaks. I think just because it's going to be harder doesn't change your tactics. It probably gives you more resolve that you need to be dedicated to those tactics and engaging as best you can.
And can I add to that? Can you hear me, Kirk? I also want to add that I wouldn't, so yes, there are hot spots right now, but there are current students, and I know 2 of them that continued through their interviewing process, and they just received offers that are in the New York location. Now, do you want to think about certain industries? For sure, but there are still offers being extended, and 2 students just got offers in New York. So there are places that are still hiring. Is it going to be slower? Yes. Will you have to be diligent? To Kirk's point, yes. But there are places that are still hiring.